everyone, this is Kathy from K.dill Handmade, and I wanted to welcome you to my video tutorial today for the Shaker Marathon with the Marathon Sewciety. Today is going to be a special event because there is not one specific pattern that we are making throughout the day. Each maker is able to choose their own pattern, but we have to turn it into a shaker bag. So it's a bit of a challenge for us to find the pattern that we think would be really cool to make into a shaker. And if you're not familiar with the shaker panels, those are those clear panels with little confetti or little things inside of it to shake. So let me show you the pattern that I have chosen, and it might not be a surprise to many of you, but I'm going to be making one of my all-time favorite bags, the Nooga, and this is a convertible hip bag, so you can wear it as a crossbody or you can wear it around your waist as a hip bag. And I'm going to be making a shaker panel on both the front and the back. So I'm super excited to show you how we're going to do this. So let's go ahead and get started. We'll go over the pieces and I'll show you what I'm going to do. All right, so let's first start off by showing you the pieces that I'm making, or that I'm using, the fabrics I'm using. So I'm using this canvas Tortured Poets department from Fabric Therapy, and then I have this iridescent clear vinyl, and that is from My Little Shindig. So I'm going to have, this is going to be the slip pocket. I'm going to have whatever piece you're making a shaker panel out of, you need the same pattern piece cut in the clear vinyl. So this is going to be the front of my slip pocket. This will be the back of my slip pocket. And then I'm going to be making on the other side, and I guess I should say that also on the back behind this, I think I'm going to have this tailor fabric here, the Tortured Poets. I think I'm going to use the same fabric for the back. So that will be on the one side. For the other side, I'm going to be making the bottom half of the zipper pocket. That is going to be a shaker panel down there. And then I'm going to have the top just be black here, and I think I'm going to add my logo or a label of some sort right here. I have some really neat TTPD ones that I probably will use. And then this is a little wrinkled, but that's okay. This is going to be the back side. So you'll have to have two of each of these. And then again, if you're using the shaker, you'll need the clear vinyl for that panel. I have another piece for the inside. This is my other lining pocket piece. Then I'm going to be doing card slots, and this is waterproof canvas. So this is a thicker waterproof canvas. I think this is Ottertex, and this one I got from Wonderground Fabrics. It's very thin. So while I would not normally recommend using waterproof canvas for card slots, because this one is so thin, I think it'll be just fine. So that's going to be the center of my card slots, and then I'm going to have these as accents on the side. So I've got that. Then I also have an interior zipper pocket, and I am using the same canvas as the outer for those zipper pockets. I will have two. The pattern calls for 4, but I actually just cut, when I cut the corners off of here, I saved these, and I'm going to be using these as my strap anchors. So that is just one way you can save a little bit of fabric there if you cut off or save what you cut off. Okay, then we have, let me see if I can get it here. We're going to have strap, a length of strap, and that's provided for in the pattern instructions. And then you'll have the two little strap tabs, and that's where they're going to connect to these anchors here. You can use fabric, but I decided to cut part of the webbing and use that. Then you will have 3 different lengths of zipper, and I'm using this Eras Tour zipper pull that was from Warm You Know with the rainbow hardware. And then on the inside pocket, I just have a little heart. The 2 outside pockets get the stage from the Eras Tour, and the inside pocket just gets the heart. Okay, then you will also have 4 zipper tabs, and that's again for the front zipper pocket. You will have, let's see, I just dropped, oh, there it is. little teeny black piece is hard to find on this table sometimes. So that's going to be your zipper tab end. Then of course you have hardware for your strap. You'll have the 2 connectors. You'll have the 2 D-rings, and I'm using a triangle ring here, and then your adjustable slider bar. And then for my shaker pieces, my confetti pieces, I think I'm going to be using this. So there's little hearts and stars in there. Hearts and stars. Hearts and stars in this package here, and I think that would just kind of go together with the theme and with the colors. So I'm pretty sure that's the shaker, the confetti that I'm using for my shaker panel. Okay, I think that is all the pieces we'll need. Also, you might also optionally want some double-sided tape or some glue, of course clips, and little snips, scissors, and some kind of marking tool. I'll probably use this friction pen here, which is a heat erasable pen. That one, or I also often will use this one. This was also from Mormino, and it's a silver marking pen. And sometimes I'll use that on the darker fabrics. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. All right, let's start with the strap first, because that's my least favorite thing to make. And for that, you're going to need your strap hardware, so your 2 connectors, or your 2 lobster clasps, and then your adjuster slider bar with your webbing. And let's see, there's a little bit of, let me just trim. No, I think it'll be fine. It's a little bit of a, like a abrasion. I don't know what you would call it. It's not cut all the way through because you don't see it from the other side. Although there's one here as well. You know what? I think I am just going to cut that off. So let me find my scissors here. And I'm just going to cut that off so we don't have any issues. And then I will just singe the ends of the webbing to kind of seal it. That's so we don't get any little fraying or any little hairs that start to pop out. Okay, so now with the webbing, we're going to start with the adjuster bar, slide it up and over, and then in here, so you have an option. You can sew a square, or you can connect it with some rivets. So once you put it up and over the center bar, decide which method you're going to use. I'm going to attach some rivets, so I will go install those and be back and show you the rest of the strap. Okay, so once that strap end is secured, you're going to come to the other end of your strap and make sure it's not, make sure your strap is not twisted. Grab one of your lobster clasps, slide it on so that the clasp is hanging down. So this is the inside of your strap. This will be the outside of your strap. And then you're going to take the end and slide it up and over that center adjuster bar one more time. Down to the end. You can double check to make sure that everything is nice and straight, and it is, so that's good. And then again, coming back to this end, making sure you're not twisting your strap. This is the top, this is the bottom. You're going to slide your other lobster clasp on and folding it in half. Again, you can secure the end here because this side will be seen. You can also do a little double fold here to kind of hide that raw edge. You could also add a strap end, really whichever method you prefer, to close that off. So I'm going to add a couple rivets here, just like I did on the other side. I'll have my strap end folded under, and then our strap will be complete. All right, here we are. Strap is complete. Everything looks great. So we can set this to the side, and then let's go ahead and move on to creating our external shaker panels. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and start with the slip pocket side. So what you want to do is, this is going to be the back side of the slip pocket. So with whatever is going to be the outside, you're going to lay that right side up, lay your clear vinyl on top of that, And then we're going to clip around, and I'm going to clip down the 2 angled sides, down these 2 short sides here, and across the bottom. And this is more of just a visual reminder for me because I'm going to stitch only along these sides here, and I'm going to leave this part open because that's where I'm going to install the shaker, the confetti bits. So confetti bits. So I'm just going to go ahead and stitch along here using my standard stitch length, and then we'll be able to drop in the confetti. Okay, so I basted around, I just stitched all the way around at about 1/8 of an inch. I want it to be less than the seam allowance because I don't want this to be seen once we turn it through. Again, left this top open, so we are ready to install or drop in some confetti. So I have my little confetti bag here that I opened. Let's see if I can do this without making a big, huge mess. There. So I'm just going to drop in I don't know exactly how much. Let's see. Come on, little bits. There we go. All right, so then I'll just kind of look at it, shake it around, see what I think, and that looks like not enough to me. So I'm going to put some more in. All right, let's see how that looks. Okay, I feel like that looks much better. That looks pretty good. So once it is full and has enough little confetti and whatever else you want to put inside there, then we will just stitch across the top to secure it all nice and closed. All right. Shake, shake, shake. Shake, shake, shake. Shake your panel. Okay, I'm a dork, I know. It's all right. It's gotta have fun while you're sewing, right? Come on, guys. Okay, so now you're going to, once that is nice and closed up and secure, you're going to take your pocket lining and we're going to clip just along these angled edges here. Okay, we're not going to clip any other sides. We are only going to stitch according to the seam allowance straight down this side here. Then we're going to turn it through. So again, the top, the short sides here, and the bottom will all be unsewn. Stitch here, turn it through, top stitch along this folded edge, and then if you want, you can base stitch along these unfinished edges. All right, so there is our slip pocket. I just basted across the top here and then top stitch down these sides. These ones I did not baste, and it's up to you. It's personal preference. No harm either way. That's just an option. Okay, so now to finish the slip pocket side, we are going to grab our other exterior, and just as an FYI, this is canvas and I interfaced the back with SF 101. Okay, so we are going to try to get our confetti to come to the center. And then we're going to just lay this lined up here. I'm going to clip these short sides and a clip across the top, and then clip the short sides over here. Okay, and then the last thing I want to do is just grab my little ruler, which must be buried at the moment. So I'm just going to measure from the point where the pocket is up to the top to make sure it is the same distance. And yes, mine is. So if it's off a little bit, just make sure that this mount here is the same, and then if it's off a little bit at the bottom, you can just trim that. But this is the part you're going to see, so this part will be noticed, and you know, you just want to make sure that that's even. Okay, so once this is attached, we will base stitch across the top here, base stitch down the sides, and then we are going to make the strap anchors and install those. Okay, so to make our strap anchors so that we can attach those to the slip pocket panel and finish off that piece, what we're going to need is our 2 corner pieces, our 2 little straps, and then of course the 2 connectors. So you can use a D-ring connector here, or a triangle connector like I have. You're just going to slide those over the D-ring connector, add a clip. Optionally, you can add a row of stitching here to help secure these 2 together, which I will do before I attach it all to the panel, but I'm just going to add them with a clip right now. And then what you want to do is you want to fold this triangle panel in half, and then taking one of your straps, you're going to slide it in to the folded edge. Okay, so you want it to overhang a little bit. Just make sure you have enough room here that your strap or that your hardware will not get in the way of your sewing needle. And then what we're going to do is we're just going to sew down this straight edge. So I'll sew down this straight edge, and then I will sew another little row of stitching right there for those straps. And the same on this one, folding it in half. So I'm folding it in half along this long edge, and then sliding the strap and the connector into the inside. I want to measure, make sure I think this one needs to go in a little bit. I will measure those before I sew them down just to make sure they're even. But here's what it's looking like. You're going to have the folded edge, the unfinished edge. So you're going to stitch across here and stitch a couple row of stitches on your strap if you prefer that. All right, so stitch straight across this edge, added a little row of stitching here. Now we're going to turn these through so that they are right sides out. And if you have a little turning tool, if you need to, you can poke into that corner to get that corner nice and flat. I'm going to add just another couple clips here to help hold it flat. Do the same thing to the other side. And then once we get this all turned through, we're going to take it to the sewing machine, and we are going to top stitch along the 2 finished edges. So we're top stitching along these 2 edges here, and then you can just base stitch across here to keep that, just keep it flat and secure. Okay, so let's see, I'm just going to turn them so that we can tell that they're, you know, opposite of each other. And again, just top stitching along these 2 finished edges, and then base stitching along the angled edge. And then you can trim off your little dog ears here. Okay, so now that we have our 2 little strap ends, our anchors completed, we are ready to attach them to our slip pocket panel. So with your slip pocket panel right side up, you're going to take your anchors and you're going to line them up. So you want the seams here matching, and you want the hardware going up and in towards the top of the panel. Same for this one. You're going to align it right here with this edge of the slip pocket, clip it in place, and then I will always do another double check to make sure that I have the same amount of space here at the top, and I have about 1/2 inch. Yep, I'm good. Okay, so now once that is, you measured, everything looks good, you're just going to base stitch along the sides here, and then this panel will be complete. We can set this to the side and we'll start working on the front zipper pocket panel. Okay, so for the front pocket panel, we are going to need our 2 top pieces. Oops, I don't know if you can see that. There we go, our 2 top pieces. I'm just kind of pushing them up out of the way a little bit. Bottom piece with the clear vinyl. We will also need one of the zippers, the zipper ends here, and of course we will need our confetti. All right, so the first thing we need to do is prepare our zipper. So taking the zipper that is the correct length for what you need, we are going to be attaching our zipper ends, our zipper tab ends. Now mine is the waterproof canvas, which looks very similar on both sides, so it's not so critical which side I put down, but you will want to put your right sides together with the zipper. So you're going to sandwich that in the zipper inside of your 2 ends. And you're going to do that to both ends of your zipper. Again, right sides together with the zipper, so it'll be right side, wrong side, and then on the back, right side to the bottom of the zipper, and then wrong side. Okay, once you get those clipped on, you're going to stitch at 1/4 inch seam allowance, press both panels away from the zipper, and then you're going to top stitch down the folded end on, you're going to do that to both sides of the zipper ends. Okay, once those zipper tabs are stitched on, we're going to set the zipper to the side just for a moment so that we can create our shaker panel. And we are going to do the same thing on this one, but I think instead of doing it from the top, I'm just going to do the 2 long sides and the 1 short side, and then I'll leave this short side open so I can drop the confetti in this way. Okay, so I'm going to base stitch just around these 3 sides only. Okay, stitched around the 3 sides. This side is open, so now we need to grab the rest of our confetti and go ahead and drop it in to this panel here. And again, you can check it to see how it looks. And then once you have it filled to however full you want it to be, then you're going to sew down this side, sealing the panel and the confetti inside. All right, other shaker panel is done. There we go. And I've decided that I'm probably going to be finding little bits of confetti for days, possibly years. I think it's kind of like glitter, you know, where it just, see, there's one right there. It just kind of gets stuck and you're finding it for a long time. All right, so now what we need to do is we're going to attach the zipper. So I'm just here looking for where the center of my zipper is. I'm folding it in half, and then I did a little finger press, and I'm just going to add a couple little marks here so I know exactly where the top and bottom is. Same thing for the main panel. I'm going to find right there, and then you know what, I'm just going to make a little mark there because I want to talk for a minute and I don't want to lose where that mark is. Okay, so the thing that you need to think about when you're installing your zipper is how you're going to be wearing this bag. So are you going to be wearing it, think of it as, I view this as sort of the front of the bag. So when I'm wearing it, it's against my body this way. I will wear my crossbodies over my left shoulder. So it goes from my left shoulder down to my right hip. So I will want my zipper open and close to be at this end because I want it to be sort of at the top versus at the bottom where things could maybe fall out. If you wear yours the other way, then I would flip the zipper around so it opens and closes at this side. But like I said, and I always have to double check myself because I'm like, yep, so this is the top. This is where I want it to open and close. So I'm going to make sure that the open and close side of my zipper is going that way. All right, and then I'm going to flip my zipper down, matching up those center marks. going to just line up the zipper with the top of the panel here. And my zipper tabs overhang a little bit, and that's okay. That's not going to be seen in the finished product, so it's not a big concern of mine. If it's a concern of yours, you can always trim that little, if you can see, there's a little bit of an overhang there. You could always trim that so it's flush with the top of the panel. Okay, so once you get that down, you can baste stitch that on if you prefer. I'm just going to I'm going to live dangerously and jump right into attaching my lining panel. So lining that up, so you want the sides lined up, and then the top where the zipper is, again, you're just going to clip it in place all the way across. There's no T in across. Okay, and then once you get that connected up here, clipped in place, you're going to sew across the top according to the seam allowance in the pattern, and then you're going to flip both panels down and away from the zipper, and then top stitch along that folded edge. Okay, so I'll do that, and I'll be back to show what it looks like and show you the next step. All right, so there is how that is looking. Top stitched, both panels pressed down away from the zipper, so everything is inside here. Now, you might notice that there's a little bit of an overhang. I'm not going to worry about that yet. I'll finish that at the final step. Now, the next thing we need to do is take our two top band pieces, and again, I'm going to find the center here, and then flipping this down right sides together with the top of the zipper, I again am going to attach that, lining it up with the top edge. And I'm going to clip it all the way across. Okay, then I'm going to flip it over, make sure it looks good. Since I'm black and black, I just want to make sure, it's kind of hard to see. Just make sure everything is meeting and lining up correctly. And then I'm going to take my other top band right sides down on the lining side. So I'm looking at the back of the zipper here, and I'm going to line that up as well. And then I'm going to do the same thing that we did for the bottom half. We're going to sew across this according to the seam allowance, press both panels up and away from the zipper, and top stitch going across. All right, there we go. Panels are on. Now this is where I will come through and trim the side so that everything's nice and flush. Trim up any strings that I have hanging off. Okay, and then one final step before we move on to attaching the other, the zipper pocket backing, is if you have any sort of label and you want to attach it, I have this pack of Tortured Poets Swifty cork labels that I got from Fabric Therapy, but they are made by Heartwood and Hyde. So I'm going to go through and pick one, and I'm going to put it, let's see, I kind of like this gray one, but that one might fit a little better just because I really like this gray one, but I feel like this one, because it's a small section of real estate up here, you want to make sure that your label's not too huge, and then it looks weird because it's too big. So I'm going to go ahead and do this one. I'm going to sew that on. Now you can, I'm just going to sew mine through this piece right here, but you could, if you wanted to, you could sew it through both. Since this will be the inside of your pocket, no one's going to see it. That's totally up to you, but like I said, I'm just going to flip this down, center this, and sew that on. All right, so there is my label sewn on. Now the last thing we need to do is grab our other lining piece. So this is going to be the back of your pocket. So I'm just doing this neon green waterproof canvas. You're going to lay it right sides up, and then the lining of your zipper pocket right sides down. You're going to clip it all the way around And then once you get it clipped on, you're going to baste stitch all the way around. And again, if you, or as you're sewing, just kind of knock your confetti out of the way. You just don't want to, I mean, it shouldn't be, you know, too hard for your needle to go through, but I would suggest trying to keep it out of the way as much as possible. It'll just make things easier all the way around. All right, so once you get that clipped on, everything is looking good from the back side. I'm just going to smooth it out just to make sure. And yes, everything is looking good. Okay, so now I'm just going to go ahead and just do a base stitch all the way around the 4 outside edges. All right, so to make our card slot panel, you're going to take your main card slot, and of course I am using solid, so top and bottom doesn't matter, but from wherever the top is, you're going to flip it over, and then measuring from the top, you're going to measure down to these marked lines, and the measurements are provided for in the pattern. So you're just going to make these on the back, and then flipping it back over to the front. I describe in the pattern valley folds and mountain folds. So a valley fold is where you want your material to be right sides together. So I'm just going to give it a nice press right here, and because I'm using waterproof canvas, I think I might also use my little seam roller just to kind of help it, encourage it to stay there. Okay, so now, and I'll show you why I call them mountain folds and valley folds in just a second, but from this next line down now, you're going to do a mountain fold, which is wrong sides together. I'm just making sure I'm folding on that line. So your panel is wrong sides together. Again, give it a little seam roller, okay? And then flipping it back to that next line, it's going to be a valley fold. So wrong sides or right sides together. And so you're going to repeat this the whole way down. It's going to be valley fold, mountain fold, valley fold, mountain fold, valley fold, mountain fold. And then that's going to create your card slots. Okay, so once you get everything folded, I will show you what I mean here when I say mountain folds and valley folds. So as you can see, the valley fold kind of goes down, and then the mountain comes up to a peak. Valley down to the bottom, mountain up to a peak. And that's just an easy way for me to remember which way I'm folding. So it's valley folds and mountain folds. And like I said, this is going to create your card slots. So now what you want to do is on each of your mountain folds, you're going to fold everything else out of the way. You're going to top stitch across, fold that one down and out of the way, top stitch across. So you're going to top stitch across all 3 of your mountain folds. All right, so once you get those 3 pockets top stitched, you're going to find the center mark on your panel, and starting at this first top pocket, you're going to start here and stitch all the way down, straight down the center. All right, there we go. Now the last thing we need to do for the card slot is to attach our card slot sides. Now, because I did not put my logo on the outside of the bag, I'm going to use this cute little woven label here, and I'm going to just attach it to the side. Let me see, grab some clips here. I'm going to attach it to the side of the card slot panel. Okay, and then I'm going to line up the card slot sides. Now, if you have any overhangs, sometimes this is an area where you might get your measurements a little bit off. And as you can see, I have maybe, I don't know, 1/8 of an inch, maybe a little bit less, where my side here is longer than my card slot center. And that is totally fine. Don't stress out about it too much, because we are going to measure and trim off any overhang once we get the sides attached. Okay, so now the last thing we need to do here is we're just going to sew down according to the seam allowance. We're going to press these panels back and away from the center, top stitch down those sides, and then there is a measurement provided for in the pattern to make sure that your panel, your finished panel, measures a certain size. If you have any extra, trim it off of the bottom of the card slot panel. Okay, now I will recommend here, once we get that sewn on, you can see my little labels there. It's also a really cute spot to add any sort of woven label. But I will say the last thing we need to do is just to double check the card slots to make sure everything fits nice. And yep, looks great to me. All right, so now this panel is complete. We are ready to move on to our zipper pocket panel. All right, so the next step we need to do is create this zipper pocket. So there are instructions in the pattern for how you're going to do this. I actually tried recording it and then realized that I did not hit the button, so it didn't record. But I will walk you through what I did here. So basically, with your lining panel right side up, your zipper pocket panel right side down, you're going to place it centered, and there are measurements in the pattern for how far down you're going to do this. You're going to draw a zipper box, stitch around the box right on the line you drew. Then you're going to cut a hole down the center, snip out to the two corners. And again, this is provided in more detail in the pattern. So again, I apologize that I had a little technical difficulties here, but hopefully it's not too bad. So I added some double-sided tape here to the back to help hold these panels in place. I am now going to take it over to the iron, give it a nice press, and then we will be ready to install the zipper and then close up the back half of the zipper pocket. All right, so ironed down, everything is looking good. So the next thing you want to do is you want to grab your shortest zipper, and the measurement for that, so you can make sure you have the right one, is provided in the pattern. You're going to remove, or I used double-sided tape here. You could also use glue if you prefer. But you're just going to attach or apply that to the long edges of your zipper. And then we want to center it over the zipper box. So usually what I do is I'll just fold this back, kind of eyeball to make sure I have the same amount of overhang on each side with my zipper. Try and keep that zipper pull centered and out of the way. And then I will just lay that right down, centered right on top of there, and everything is looking good. And once it is laying exactly how you want it to, centered top and bottom in the pocket, and I could feel that there is a good amount of overhang on both sides, I'm going to top stitch all the way around this box, as close as I can get, but probably at around 1/8 of an inch. All right, once you get that stitched on all the way across, you're going to flip it over so that you're looking at your pocket. You're going to take your other pocket piece, lay it down right sides together. You're going to match up the sides all the way around, clipping it in place. And then you're going to take it to the sewing machine and you're going to sew all 4 sides together. So we're not turning it through the pocket for this pattern. So that's why we're sewing all 4 sides. You're going to take it over to the sewing machine. Make sure you fold this back. You're going to stitch down across, again, folding this back, and then the top skinny edge straight all the way across. Sewing that all together, that will close our zipper pocket. And then, guys, our 4 panels are done and we are ready to finally put this baby all together. All right, so the last thing we need to do before we can put it all together is we need to do the final prep work on the main zipper. So I am going to just go ahead and singe the ends of the zippers. I do that on all of my zippers just to make sure I'm not going to have any fraying. And on the closed end of the zipper, so that's the flat edge of your zipper pull, on the closed end here, you're going to take your zipper tab end, you're going to attach it right sides together with your zipper. You're going to sew down at 1/4 of an inch. You're going to then fold it back and then take this piece and fold it under, and it should match up so that when you top stitch here, you are catching this piece on the bottom at the same time. All right, so once you have that top stitched on, if you have any, I have a little string here. Let me see if I can find my, let's see, I have snips here somewhere. They're probably buried with my tiny ruler. All right, so you can just trim off any strings that you have hanging off on the back. Our zipper is ready, so now we are ready finally to put this whole thing together. So what I like to do is I like to start with what I consider the front of the bag, the front panel. There is a measurement provided in the pattern for how far in you're going to measure and mark a spot. From that spot, you're going to take your zipper end, right where the tab end is, and you're going to line it up and clip it in place right at that mark. And then just go ahead and clip your zipper on to your main panel all the way across. Okay, once you get that clipped, you're going to decide, now like I said, this is going to be the front of my bag and I'm going to wear it this way, so when I unzip it and I pull it open, do I want the zipper pocket here or do I want my card slots here? I think I want my card slots here just because it's going to be easier for me to see them when I look inside my bag. So I'm going to take my card slot panel and flip it over. Now again, before you do this part, if you would prefer to baste the zipper on, feel free. You can actually baste it until you probably want to leave about 1 inch over here not basted. So just remember to stop before you get all the way to the end. Okay. Then you're going to take your card slot panel, flip it over so it is right sides together on top of the zipper and clipping it in place. Again, make sure your card slots are the right way up so that when you're installing them, when you're sewing it all together, everything lines up correctly and you don't end up with upside down card slots. That has happened before, believe it or not. All right, I'm just trying to center my panel here because it's a little shorter on the side. Okay, there we go. So once we get it all the way over, now again, there is another measurement. So whatever this measurement here is, you're going to mark it, and I've already marked it on my panel. I don't know if you can see it. It's right here. It's a little silver marking line. But I'm going to start stitching at this end. So this is where my zipper tab end is. I'm going to start at the end here, according to the seam allowance, all the way across, stopping right here where this mark is. Then I'm going to split my zipper tape, pull this one side off to the side, and continue stitching straight across. If anyone is familiar with the Butler method, that's basically what this is. We are just starting and stopping a certain amount of measurement in from the side and just pulling this off to the side to give us that 90-degree angle. Now, if you would rather, if you would prefer to make that measurement and then go ahead and tack down your 90 degrees according to whatever, this measurement right here is, you can do that, and then you would just stitch straight all the way across. Okay, so that is what that looks like. Once we get that stitched, we started here, went all the way across, stopped at this mark right here, split the zipper tape. So as you can see inside, it's split. I pulled this all the way off to the side, held it there, and then continued stitching straight down. So when you look on the inside, on this side, you can see it gives us that little 90-degree curve there. Okay, now we're going to do the exact same thing to the other side. We are going to take our other slip pocket panel with the hardware pointing up towards the top. This is the top of the bag. Again, there is a measurement provided in the instructions. I've already pre-measured pre-marked everything so that I knew where it was going to go, and I'm going to line up again the edge of my zipper tab end, and I'm going to clip it in place all the way across. This side could be a little bit more tricky because it changes in depth. And by that I mean here in the center you have the top of that slip pocket, which is definitely thicker than off to the side, because off to the side is only one, you know, it's only this piece of canvas. But here in the center you have canvas, waterproof canvas, and clear vinyl. So just kind of go slow, make sure everything's laying flat and playing nice together. And then you're going to do the same on this one. Take your zipper pocket, flip it over so it's right sides together. We're clipping it in place. And then we're going to do the exact same thing on this one. So I actually marked on this side, I marked my stopping point, and I'm going to, since I'm going to sew from this side, I'm just going to transfer that line over to here. Just make sure it's about in the same spot, and it is. All right, same thing. So starting at this edge, stitch all the way down till we get to this point, leave the needle down, pull this out to the side, and continue stitching the rest of the way. All right, so here we go. All of that is stitched, and then hopefully, if you measured correctly and nothing shifted while you were sewing, when you open it up, you should have your panel match up at exactly the same spot. And mine is maybe a hair off, but it looks pretty good to me, and I'm happy with that. Okay, so now that we have everything sewn together, the last thing we need to do, well, almost the last thing we need to do. First, we're going to snip off any extra overhang from the zipper. And then we are going to come back and we need to top stitch along the zipper. So I'm going to recommend that you only top stitch along the outer panel. So flipping the lining panel to the other side and out of the way, you want the seam allowance pressed down towards the center of the bag, and then we're just going to top stitch along this edge here. And then once we get that done, we're going to do the same thing, flip both panels back to the other side with the seam allowance pressed down, again top stitch all the way across here. Okay, so I'll do that, and then I'll be back and we'll be ready to put it together. All right, so that is what that looks like, all top stitched down. I did a couple little back stitches here just because this is kind of a stress point from putting things in and out of the pocket. So if you wanted to add a couple little tack stitches there, that's a good idea. But other than that, linings are kept out of it, so that is good. Now we are ready to put it together. All right, guys, so bringing the zipper to the center, we're going to keep the strap anchor little tabs in. We're going to put right sides together or right sides together, but exteriors together, linings together. I'm first going to match up this side seam and get it as close as I can. I want it to be exactly on if I can. So I'm going to add a couple little clips there. And then I'm going to add clips going all the way down the side. Okay, and then flipping it over to the other side, doing the same thing. I'm going to align, and you want this little tab end, you want that pressed in towards the lining pieces. So you're going to press it that way. Again, lining up those top seams. I'm going to add a couple clips there. And then, like I said, same thing. We're going to clip all the way down this panel and all the way down the lining panel. Okay. Now my one is a little bit longer, and I am not going to worry about that. You can trim that now if you want to avoid missing it while you're doing the stitching, but since our seam allowance is going to be larger than this, I'm not too worried about it. Now you will see, I wanted to show you this. This panel is a little bit longer than my slip pocket panel, and that is okay. But I'm going to stitch from this side because sometimes, you know, as we're sewing, seam allowances could get a little bit off, or we could have, let's see, I got some confetti right there in the corner. I don't want it to be there while I'm sewing, so I'm trying to get it out of the way. You know, things could slip and move and whatever. So don't get too hung up on if your panel, sorry guys, there we go, finally got out of the way. So don't get too hung up on if your panel is, you know, 1/8 of an inch or 1/4 of an inch shorter. It doesn't mean you messed up. It doesn't mean, oh no, now the bag's ruined, it's going to be terrible, and all of my hard work just went down the drain. No, 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 that's not it at all. It's just, it just happens, right? It happens when we sew. Things shift, things adjust. And I always try to make my patterns in a way that provide forgiveness for things like that. Because, I mean, there's nothing worse than making a bag and thinking, oh, I just ruined it. Like, I'm terrible, I'm useless, I'm whatever. All these nonsense things that we don't need to be telling ourselves. So, I guess what I'm trying to say is don't worry about it. It's okay. We're still going to sew it. It's still going to be a beautiful bag. No one's going to know. We're going to trim this off. And once you turn it through, I mean, no one's going to know. So it's all good. All right, I'm just going to add a couple more clips here. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take it to the sewing machine and sew all the way around. Now I kind of use this as my guide, so I won't sew between the card slots. I will just start sewing here, down and around, all the way around here, all the way around. I will recommend, so on the outside here, we use usually about 1/4 of an inch seam allowance. I would recommend increasing it to 3/8 of an inch seam allowance on the lining panel, just to help it to sit nice and snugly inside of the exterior. You probably could even go a little bit larger since these exteriors are a little bulky. So instead of 3/8, you could maybe do 1/2 of an inch seam allowance, and I think you would be just fine there too. So up to you how much you want to increase here, but just make sure you increase it versus this so that you don't have a saggy, baggy lining. Okay, and then again, we're leaving this open for turning through. And the one last final comment, I will say, if you prefer to curve your corners, feel free to do that. I have a little corner tool, and I'm going to draw those lines on these corners, and then I'm just going to sew around that because I think this bag looks really neat as with curved corners. All right, so I guess that's it. Go ahead, mark your corners if you want to curve them, and then sew all the way around, like I said, according to the seam allowance, leaving this part here open, and then we'll be back to turn it through. All right, so I stitched all the way around. I went back and double checked to make sure that I had caught everything on this side, because you know this panel was slightly larger. So now the last thing I need to do is I just want to kind of trim back that seam allowance. I'm going to trim it back by about 1/2. Curving those corners. And then same thing on the lining. And I'm just going to angle it down like that. So I'm not going to do anything with this bottom because I want that there. It's going to help me to close up that seam when we get there. So again, all right, there we go. All right, and I'm just going to trim this up a little bit because this is bugging me. All right, moment of truth. We are ready to turn it through. So reaching in, we're going to try to grab the inside, and I can already tell this is going to be tricky because of all the layers and all the vinyl. So I'm just going to work it slowly and try to push it out. If it's really giving you guys a hard time, one thing that you can use is a hair dryer. If you heat it up, that makes the vinyl much more pliable and it makes it easier to turn it through. So that's just one tip that you can try if you're really struggling to get this through. Whew. Okay, that was a workout. Okay, got everything pushed through. The iron definitely helps to curve these corners. And guys, I will say, especially if you're doing vinyl on both sides, it is a struggle to get these corners turned out. I'm not gonna lie, it is a struggle. And I recommend, highly, highly, highly recommend curving your corners. If you don't, if you decide to keep those straight corners here, you're probably going to be cursing because it is hard to get into those corners. So do yourself a favor and round those corners. All right, so I will make sure everything is laying nice and rounded and smooth the way it is supposed to, but first I need to close up this hole. So I'm just going to try to flatten that seam as much as I can and add a couple clips along this bottom edge. Yes, I definitely recommend, if you're doing a shaker panel for this, curve those corners and it'll be a whole lot easier. All right, so let me just make a little adjustment here. I want to make sure everything is lined up nice and straight. All right, so now I'm just going to stitch as close as I can to the edge, ensuring that I get both sides of the lining panel caught in that stitch line so that the opening on the bottom of the bag here is now closed. Stitch straight across there, and then we're ready to push it in and kind of see what our final bag's gonna look like. All right, so you can see I stitched very close to that edge. That might even be an 1/8 of an inch. I mean, a 1/16 of an inch. It's small. It was as close as I could get to the edge here, so that I have a nice flat base, but still was able to catch, you know, both sides of the lining panel. So now I'm just reaching in here, pushing this out into the corners. And this is where you wanted to make sure that you had a larger seam allowance on your lining panels so that everything laid in there nice and smoothly, nice and flat. And of course, if you need to make any sort of adjustment, I probably would recommend that you do that before you close up the pocket, close up the bottom. All right, there we go. It is turned through. Shaker panel complete. Last thing we need to do is attach our strap. Guys, I really hope you enjoyed this shaker panel marathon. This is the Nooga by K.dill Handmade, and I think it turned out awesome. Super fun. Inside this pocket here is that pop of color. Same thing on the inside. You got the card slots and the zipper pocket, and then you've got the peekaboo Tortured Poets lining. All right, thank you so much for joining me. I hope you enjoyed this video tutorial. If you make a shaker panel Nooga or any of my other patterns, please feel free to post it in my group. And I can't wait to see what you make. Guys, I hope you had fun. I know I did. And I'll catch you around. Go sew something fun.